Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais, and my co-host, Andrew Bobo, is on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. So, welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast. I'm Phil. I'm addicted to tacos. And Andrew wants us to ask him about his taco, which I hope is in reference to like Mexican food and not anatomical reference, because that could get really freaking weird really freaking quick.
I mean, it is yesterday, international, was it, or not international, but it was a Women's Day or something like that, and they gave an award to a man.
Why do you have to make my head hurt? Why?
Awesome.
Why? A minute and a half into the show, and you've already got me rubbing my temples.
Because we live in a clown world. I mean, we got
clown
Biden,
world.
We have Biden doing the dementia shuffle. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Anyway,
so I did a thing. I bought a truck.
I'm happy for you. Like super, super excited. By the way.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, dude, you've wanted a Tacoma specifically for quite a long while.
Yeah,
and
I've been wanting a truck for a number of years now, and I've been researching Tacomas for probably over a year. And then because like I remember talking about Tacomas, and then you're like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna go look at one."
Yeah, which you and I kind of have an interesting crossover in our truck history, and the fact that both of us had like very early generation Toyota trucks when we were younger, and then now we're circling back around back into Toyota trucks.
Yeah, I when I was 21, I had I was 21 because I was dating my one girlfriend, ex-girlfriend. Anyway, yeah, we were a little 4-cylinder manual, single, just a one like little bench. You know, Toyota Tacoma, or it wasn't even Tacoma. It was a Toyota
It was a pickup.
Toyota pickup.
Right?
Yeah, Toyota pickup, 4-cylinder manual. That thing, it had locking hubs, and everything. And I remember I was on my way home one day and I smoked a deer with it. And
poor thing.
Yeah, the deer there was a hill and it came like shooting down the hill. And it was like mid stretch, and I ran my truck sat high, and it sat high. I think whoever had it before me, I think they put a lift in it. Yeah, I bought it from my dad found it on the road. Found the truck on the side of the road for sale. He bought it for him, and then I bought it from him. I think I paid like $3,000. I think I paid him $3,000 for it back in the day. And that thing was the best truck. You'd put it in 4-wheel drive, and it would scoot over snow. And it was such a good truck. I was sad when I had to get rid of it because the engine started knocking on it. So I think if I remember, I think my dad sold it to my grandpa, or he bought it for like $300 or whatever, and then he rebuilt the engine. But yeah, no, it's been a long road back to Toyota. Yeah,
and my last Toyota before this one was a 94 Toyota pickup, standard cab, short bed, 2-wheel drive, stick shift, 4-cylinder, manual steering. The only option the truck had on it, per the spec sheet, was air conditioning, which was an option on a 94 Toyota pickup sold in Texas.
I think my pick was it was a 91 if I remember right.
Yeah, I love that little truck though. I remember when I went to insure it, like I saw the quote, and in the quote it said half-ton truck, and I was like, there's no way that tiny-ass little thing out there is rated for a half-ton. And I went and looked at it, and according to the gross vehicle weight, it was a half-ton truck. And I can attest to the fact that that little pickup truck with a stick shift and a very asthmatic 4-cylinder engine happily ran around with like a 700-pound TIG welder in the bed.
Nice.
It was, dude, that truck was legit. It was not comfortable. It was nothing pretty. It was nothing like feature-ridden. It wasn't a nice truck, but like that cemented in my mind Toyota makes damn good trucks. And now you're back into Toyota.
Yeah. Yep, I picked up a 2023 Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road is what I ended up going with. And I got the off-road. I did a ton of research between the different packages. And basically it was like I went with off-road. I mean, I'm not planning on doing a ton of off-roading, but the idea that it has like the crawl control and it has like some of the nicer features as far as, going off-road. Or if you just get stuck. And then it's it's got the rear locking differential, and then also the upgraded suspension too. It's got Bilstein shocks, and then it came with better tires too. So I kind of going off of. I mean, I just like in November I just got tires for my Jeep. I spent like $800 for tires on my Jeep, and so I kind of want. I don't I mean, I don't want to buy new tires again. So getting that these are the tires that came with this package, like they're not as aggressive as the ones I have on my Jeep, but I think they're going to be good for the winter and stuff like that. So no, I'm pretty happy. I mean, and I'll get to try it tonight. It's supposed to snow actually tonight. So we'll see how it handles.
There's a redneck in Texas that really needs to keep his mouth closed. I still contend, and I still get lots and lots of flack from everybody about getting a two-wheel drive truck. But I will contend, I have driven that two-wheel drive, no rear locker truck into nastier crap and gotten out than the average 4x4 owner ever will in his life. And I will fight to the death about that. Because I don't know about where you live, but there's so many freaking four-wheel drive trucks and Jeeps running around running around this city I live in, and the undercarriage is so spotless you could eat off of it.
I mean, if you don't need it, you don't need it.
Well,
I mean,
and that's fine, but I guess that's my point. It's a two-wheel drive. I know better than to go places I shouldn't go, and that keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, then you also know how to handle the two-wheel drive. Not many people. There's a lot of people that drive. They have the four-wheel drive, but they have it so they can say, "I have four-wheel drive." Do they know actually how to use it? No. Do they actually know how to drive a two-wheel drive? Probably not. Not that well. Yeah. And specifically, I mean, especially where you're at, when you get the weather that like the snow and ice. I mean, you don't want to be on the roads when when there's a ton of snow and ice up here. I don't even want to be on the roads, but I'll tell you what, four-wheel drive stops just the same as two-wheel drive on ice. So
Slides just like it too.
and it does. And so I mean, the biggest thing I found from driving going from the four-cylinder truck to, I mean, and I've always had like all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicles, but a lot of it is just weight. Like, it's if you have a weight in the back of the truck for rear wheel drive, I think you'll be fine. And yeah, four-wheel drive. If you that's the other thing too, is I always knew that growing up too. Is there's been a couple times where my dad and I have been stuck, and it's like, well, I'll put it in four-wheel drive, and it just doesn't go anywhere. It just digs deeper, and we're like, okay, now we're stuck.
Yeah.
Get out and shovel.
Well, and I'll also say before we start getting to the official topic, I'll also say that like twice before I've been asked to get a stuck vehicle out of mud. Both times one time it was front wheel drive, one time it was rear wheel drive with an open diff, and both times with street tires. Like the absolute last thing that should ever be stuck in mud, but they both were. Well, last thing that should have been driven or parked in mud, put it that way. Anybody knew that as soon as you put the gas pedal down, that vehicle was going to dig itself in. Both times I got those vehicles unstuck under their own power. Mm-hmm. It's all about technique, momentum, patience, and understanding that as long as you can move, you're not stuck. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, most people's understanding of how cars work is if it's not moving, you press the gas pedal down harder. And that makes the situation 10 times worse.
Really quick, when I was in college, I used to smoke. I know, bad habit. But when I was in college, we'd go out for a smoke break, and I remember one winter, there was a hill right next to the college. There was a hill that, I mean, it was, I mean, there we go. It was like that. I mean, it was an intense hill for being in the city too. And we had an ice storm, and you'd have people that would try to make a run up that hill. They would start from a ways back, and you'd hear them, and like little like pintos or whatever, and you hear, and all of a sudden you hear rain, and you hear the tires, like all of a sudden you hear the tires. The moment the tires broke traction, you'd hear it. And then it was all they would do. All they would do, instead of like letting off the tire or letting off the gas and letting it re-grab, all they do is they mash that pedal and they just spin those wheels. Once you lose traction, the only way to grab it back is you got to stop and start from scratch. And this guy, he got halfway up the hill, lost traction. He kept doing it, and instead of going up, he was on. He had to have been fully pegged as far as his odometer or his speedometer and his RPMs rather. But he slid right back down the hill, and he almost hit a couple cars doing it. Like, I don't know how. Like, it was. I laughed. There was a few of us, and we laughed so freaking hard.
See, anyway. This is why down here, when there's snow and ice on the ground, all of us socially responsible coonasses stay home. Because none of us know how to drive on snow and ice, but we at least admit that, and we stay home. It's the ones who don't know how to drive and insist on trying to that cause all the problems. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so last time we talked about truck stuff. I had meant to take us down a couple of paths, and one I totally forgot to. We actually said it and then moved on to something else immediately. And a couple other things we just ran out of time because we were both pressed for time. And I've promised this episode will not go over an hour, so I've got 48 minutes. So, we talked recovery gear for ever so brief of a moment. I know you mentioned you were looking at traction boards. Mm-hmm. I would also offer as an alternative, or not even as an alternative, but as you should probably pack two, would be like an entrenching tool, little shovel, little packable shovel you can stuff somewhere in the truck.
Well, yeah, that's a given.
It's a given to you, but it's not a given to everybody.
No, I've been researching traction boards, and a lot of the times you buy one, you buy two, but I've been watching videos of people that they have, they'll sit there and they use them as shovels. The way they made them, you can actually, scoop stuff out with them and stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, well, you have this thing that it's a big ass paddle, and yeah, it's useful for doing that stuff. But I've been looking at like the molly boards that you can put in the back of the trucks, and so I've been looking at those because I've been looking at tonneau covers. And so one of the things that I'm probably going to go with right off the bat is I'm getting a tonneau cover, and I'll probably end up looking at those molly panels, and buying a small shovel that you can buy like the smaller purpose-built shovels. Getting one of those, getting some things that I can put on the side. And keep, and like they'll be in the bed 24 hours a day. So,
yeah, I actually got a Gerber kit that has like a little fold-up entrenching tool, and it also has a pack axe, and it also has a little bitty folding tree saw, and it's like it stays in the truck 24 hours a day because if I'm home, I have much bigger, more fun stuff to use to do all those things. But it stays in the truck because if I just so happen to be like camping, for instance, and I need to cut a limb off or I need to, cut something, I have things to do that. If I need to, grab a fistful of, or grab a shovel full of dirt, pour it over a campfire to put the coals out, I've got stuff to do that. And if you're dug in someplace, it's helpful to have that shovel to try to move material under your tires to get you out of the crap you're in.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you're thinking on the lines of a winch. Winches are a lot of fun, but winches are also a bit of a double-edged sword because now you're carrying extra weight on your nose.
Yeah, no, I've been looking at winches. I've been doing a ton of research. Like I said, I've been first, it was first off, it was like research into what I wanted, and then once I decided what I wanted, it was just research on like the aftermarket parts, the mods, and everything that you can now do to the truck. And yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind getting the front bumper system for with a winch and stuff like that. The problem is not all the bumpers. I've seen some where like you can do it without having to alter too much, but a lot of them you have to alter the bumper, like the profile, quite a bit. Where like you're actually cutting plastic, like you're cutting the
Hmm.
bumper away. And as of right now, I don't want to do that. I mean, especially like I'm pretty sure that might alter the warranty. I don't know
It
how
almost
that works,
certainly.
but
It would definitely cause you some heartburn if you ever had to put that thing back in the dealership, I'm sure.
oh yeah, and so yeah, I'm not looking at altering it too much. I did find, like I said, I did find some bumpers that uh, you can do minimal amount of cosmetic work to them, if any. If you, and some of them I found that you can actually just remove it and it's a whole new bumper system, stuff like that. So I mean, eventually down the road, definitely down the road, I wouldn't mind having a winch, something like that. Again, I'm not looking at completely off roading, like doing a lot of off roading with this. I wouldn't mind getting together with, like, I know there's a bunch of groups that have like the truck and Jeep off-roading, what they do in the winter and stuff like that, which I wouldn't mind getting into that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. It'd be a good way to meet people and stuff like that, like minded individuals. But I don't know. As of right now, yeah, down the road, definitely a winch, but starting off right now, yeah, no. It's on the list of to do. It's a want right now, not a need.
Yeah. I was going to say that, like what I have in my truck, because again, I am not going to cut up a bumper and put a winch on a two-wheel drive truck. I don't know. I get enough hell for having a two-wheel drive truck in the first place. I don't need that in my life too. But I do have just like a two inch hitch receiver that'll
Yeah.
take D-ring. They'll take shackles. So I've got a good solid anchor point if somebody needs to tug
Yeah.
me out or if I need to tug somebody else out. I've got a good ARB snatch strap, kinetic strap, which there are moments in time where I am happy to like try to save a buck with Amazon stuff. However, I am terrified to find out what kind of Chinesium they make kinetic straps out of that they sell on Amazon. So I went ahead and spent the money and got like a legit ARB snatch strap so it doesn't come back through my windshield in case, God forbid, I ever have to use it. And on the front of the truck, I was going to say I'm pretty sure it's Bay Area Metal Fabrication. If you get interested or curious, I'll look it up for you. But the TRD off-roads already have kind of a I mean, Toyota would call it a recovery hook. I don't know if how much I would trust it for that, but there is a company out there that actually makes bolt-in recovery points that bolt up underneath the front bumper to the bumper support, and it would give you recovery points on the front of the truck that don't require you to make like drastic alterations to the bumper.
Hmm.
That way, if somebody does have to pull you out, or if you have to pull somebody else out, you have recovery points on the front and back of the truck. Like that's the route I've gone because I'm unlikely to need them, and therefore I'm not willing to invest a ton into them. But I do
Yeah.
have recovery points because if you don't have recovery points on your truck, doesn't really matter if somebody comes to help you out; they can't safely pull you out, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And that's the thing is like I definitely, the straps and stuff. I definitely am looking at. I want to look into those, just to have the equipment. It comes down to being prepared. I mean, it, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And it's one of those things where if something happens and I do need someone to come pull me out. I'd rather be like, okay, I have my own equipment than, hey, do you got straps and do you have this? And so,
Well, I mean, I think my wife. She hasn't told the story on the show, but she's already gone through this exercise once at the school she works at. Not this time, but the last time she worked at this school several years back, where somebody was in the parking lot. I think one of the other teachers' battery was dead. And she was going around asking if anybody had jumper cables, and my wife was the only person there that had jumper cables. Not the only person that knew how to use them, which she was also the only one that knew how to use jumper cables. She was the only one that had a set in her vehicle. And that's jumper cables. If you're on the side of the road in the wrong part of the country, let's say someplace that's a little bit bougie or urban, you are highly unlikely to find somebody that happens to have a snatch strap in the back of their truck to pull you out. So if you don't have it, you're screwed.
Actually, that reminds me, I need to actually grab the cables from underneath my Jeep seat and put them in my truck seat, underneath the truck seat. I pulled my the first thing I did when I first got home was I grabbed my med kit, my stock med bag, and I put that in the back seat. And I grabbed my IFAC, basically, tourniquets and all that stuff, and I put that in the back head, or on the back of the headrest, the passenger side headrest, just like it was in my Jeep. So that stuff is already in there. So yeah, no, before I leave tonight, after the show, I remember to grab the jumper cables out of they're underneath the seat of my Jeep. So
Yeah. So, truck preps, which for those who were following the show and have followed it for a long time, we've talked about vehicle preps in the past. But as we are off to do, we have to tread back over the same ground every so often to catch up people who are relatively new to the show, and for the simple fact that, frankly, our stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, our stuff has changed. Our setups have changed. Our gear has changed. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I have in that truck that I've had in that truck since 2019, and some of it migrated from my car when I bought the truck. So it's stuff I've had for a long time, but then there's stuff that's like constantly in flux too. So like truck preps, we've already talked about. You got to grab your jumper cables, you got to grab your med kits. You basically have to get stuff that you already keep in the Jeep, and it's got to move to the truck. So what all, I mean, you've talked about it in the past. So what all is that, and where are you going to put it? Because unlike the Jeep, where you had an enclosed climate control rear hatch, now you have a bed that's exposed to the elements. So some of that stuff probably has to go inside with you.
yeah, no, I've been, and that's the thing, like fire extinguishers. I have found I got to look it up again, but there's a mount. A company makes a mount that actually mounts the extinguisher, like basically right at your heels, on the driver's side, right underneath the seat, basically, in front of the seat.
Desert does it, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And then I plan on putting another one in the back of the bed, just right when you pull the tailgate down. Probably they make mounts that can go right into the bed. So I plan on doing that. So having an extinguisher in the front, close in the cab with me, and also in the back. So 2 is 1, 1 is none. The other thing too is, like, I'd like to look more into is, and I'm excited because April, I know we're going to test it, is it's the
Element
extinguisher.
E50.
Yeah, the element extinguisher you have. So having one of those in the cab somewhere with you isn't a bad idea either. Even if if that's all you have that, and then you have a full extinguisher maybe in the back seat, or in the back truck bed, or vice versa. I mean, you can't go wrong. Water. I mean, I'll throw a case of water. It'll probably end up a case of water that will end up in the floorboard or something like that. But no, I mean, as of right now, like the bed, I've been looking at the deck system, or something similar to it, and that way then you could have water and stuff like that. But then again, here in Michigan, you got to watch out, because in the winter, I mean, that stuff will freeze. So it's like, if you leave it outside like that. But so I don't know. There's definitely going to be different things. Like, I'm definitely going to have to sit there and play with certain things and figure it out. But but I think the tonneau cover will help. Especially, it'll help keep a lot of the snow off of from the inside of the bed, and especially water, to help freezing. You can put it in a cooler, and put the cooler then in the bed of the truck, or inside the vehicle, wherever, and that'll. I mean, and it's insulated, so it'll help with the water. It won't freeze right away. It'll stay. But this year I had waters in the back of my Jeep, and I gotta say, this year they never froze. They never once froze solid.
I will say, as far as like keeping water inside your truck, you have all the storage underneath your back seat.
Mm-hmm.
And in the TRD off-roads, I'm pretty sure you have a factory subwoofer behind one of the back seats. if memory serves. It may only be with the JBL audio package, but those usually tend to coincide with Tacomas. If you fold forward both of the rear seats, you
Right.
very well might have a little subwoofer behind one of them, but the other one will be open.
Yep,
But
that's a
I,
tip to look.
yeah, but I have found that underneath the passenger rear seat is where your jack and your
Hmm.
toolkit are. I've got probably 7 or 8, like the little 12-ounce bottles of water, just packed all
Hmm.
throughout that area. Anywhere I have free space in the basically the compartment where the jack is,
Mm.
and that's 7 or 8 12-ounce bottles of water that is taking up space that otherwise would have been unoccupied because there's tools and a jack there, but there's space I found.
Hmm.
So like there in the just what I do with water is both of the rear doors have 2 cup holders each. One of them's kind of the tall, skinny one for like a water flask.
Yeah.
I've got 4 water bottles, 2 in each of those back doors. I've got 1 each in the front doors in the tall, skinny pockets because I don't know how the second gens are or the third gens are, but on the second gens, you cannot get like a cup, like you can't get like a Yeti cup in and out of those things. I can
No.
get like a thinner Camelback or a Hydro Flask in and out of there, but I keep 6 water bottles in the doors, plus
Yeah.
another 7 or 8 around the jack, plus another handful just anywhere inside the truck I could find spare space with everything else. I packed a handful of water bottles, and I've probably got a couple gallons of water distributed throughout the truck. Which Joe says we're cutting in and out, which is odd to me because our audio, mine's doing just fine.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I think
Must be late.
I think it's Joe's crappy internet.
It's probably Facebook's crappy service.
Yeah, something.
Joe, if you head over to our YouTube channel, we're also streaming there, and it might be a little bit nicer. Maybe. But I've totally lost my daggum train of thought.
Yeah, no,
SOB.
the water, the yeah, in the third gens also, I was looking at the same thing. In the door, there's spots where you can put water and stuff like that, and yeah, there's a lot of spots. So yeah, no, I just need to discover. I mean, I literally picked it up and got here, ate, and then we hopped on here. So I plan on digging into it more over the next, how many years I have it. So
Do you keep food in your vehicle? Any kind of rations, MREs, Mountain House, anything like that? Or
I used to in my Jeep. I had a couple things, but I need to replenish. I need to kind of get things situated. So
I always tell you, I'm a big fan of mainstay rations.
yeah, high calorie and
Well, but the big thing to me is that like mainstay rations are vacuum packed, foil wrapped.
mhm,
They're rated for salt water. They're rated for unconditioned space. I mean, they're literally meant to be used in a boat.
right.
So it's okay. It's going to be okay in the back of my truck, in the heat, in the cold, for several years. So that's why I resort to those. I mean,
Yeah,
it's more shelf stable than like an MRE or anything that's not freeze dried is going to be.
yeah. No, I definitely plan on it's gonna be interesting. I should do like a before and after picture. Do like a before picture of like right now, basically brand new, nothing really in it. And then once I start getting things figured out, do like an after picture and or something. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting just because it's just figuring everything. I mean, figuring everything out. It it's a whole different vehicle than what I'm used to, and so especially
Mm.
going from a Jeep to a truck, and so figuring out. Like right now, my Jeep, I have a, I think it's a 2 ton jack, I believe, that I had, and jack stands because I don't trust the bottle jacks that come with vehicles. So I need to figure out. I need to figure out now with those. Like with that, I can't just put that in the back of the truck or in the back of the bed. It's just going to roll around everywhere.
Mm.
So it's like okay, or do I put it in the back in the back seat area? Well, now I'm cluttering that up. I mean, yeah, I don't have any friends or family really that are going to be riding with me anytime soon. But at the same time, I I kind of want to just take care of this and keep it clean and keep up on it stuff. So, and that's kind of where the deck system. That's kind of why I've been staring at that so hard is the drawer system that. You can set up dividers, and in one divider you can have your recovery kit stuff. You can have straps and everything, and the other, and yeah. So it's crazy what you can put into them, and so yeah, that's another reason why I'm looking at because I don't trust the jack system that comes with vehicles.
One thing you might want to think about, I saw a guy do this and it made a ton of sense. Matter of fact, I actually happen to have one. But there's have you seen the really, really large ammo cans that like grenades on the belts for the Mark 19s come in?
Yeah.
I saw a guy that took one of those. He got a big old magnet off of the back of a junk speaker and stuck it on the bottom, and then positioned that can directly over one of the bed bolts. And apparently that big old magnet had enough magnetism to kind of like, hold that can down to the bed bolt. And all of his recovery gear went into that. So it didn't roll around. It didn't scuff up the bed. It stayed put, at least the way he did it. And at that point, anytime he needed his recovery gear, because I think he also had a tonneau cover, he just let the bed down, grab that, and pull that bin out, and there's a box full of his recovery gear, all nice and self-contained. So the other cool thing is, and with you wanting to use a tonneau cover, I'm not sure how well it's going to work out for you, but they do make the little T-nuts that'll go inside of your cargo tracks. And I've seen those used in a ton of different ways, including like people that want to mount a fire extinguisher, they'll just build a little sheet metal plate or whatever, bolt into a pair of those T-nuts, and then suspend the fire extinguisher. So I mean,
yeah,
that's actually
there's going to be a lot of trial and error with it, just figuring out what works, what doesn't work. There's going to be a ton of research on my end as far as figuring stuff out. So I mean, but that's the fun part of doing this, is doing the research, figuring out what'll work, what won't, seeing ideas that people have done, and seeing how you can make it, how you can take that idea and make it suit you.
I did tell you, if you go to Tacoma World, the subtitle for that forum is "How to Spend All My Money," because you see way too many good ideas every week.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure they're out there, especially since this generation of Tacoma. It's been 16 years or something like that.
Well, like you and I were talking about, the interesting thing about you buying a 2023 Tacoma is that the frame and the suspension has not been appreciably altered since 2005. Like, I'm sure the frame has undergone some small changes, but the important parts of the frame, it being a semi-box construction, the general dimensions, the suspension is a direct carryover from the second-gen Tacomas, which is why I was able to buy, like, I think 2018 TRD Off-Road takeoffs, and they bolted straight onto my 2015. Not a modification necessary. So, like, even though you've purchased a 2023 truck, the running gear in the frame is 2005 vintage.
Yeah.
No reason to screw with it. It was working just fine when Toyota, redesigned the truck into the third gen. Your drivetrain is new as of 2016. But even that being the case, you're still talking about a vehicle design that's 7 years old.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing, because it means hopefully all the bugs got worked out.
Right. Hopefully. I mean, and that's why I didn't wait. That's why I really didn't want to wait for the 2024s, because of the idea that, and granted, a lot of the technology that they're putting into it, they've already been testing in other vehicles and stuff like that. But with every new make of a vehicle, like, 'cause I think they ran into issues with like the Tundra, with the new version of the Tundra and stuff like that. They had some issues, and they're working kinks out. So that, and then the aftermarket world, when a 2024, when they're redesigning basically from the ground up, the aftermarket world's not going to be there for at least a good year or two. So it's so it'll be interesting. But no, I mean, the other reason I jumped on the truck when I did was just interest rates. I mean, I talked to you about it. I talked to a bunch of guys at work, and my parents and stuff like that. Like, and basically it was more of justification of me spending the money. But I basically, I had a good amount saved up for a down payment, and with that, it put, what's that?
Stuart saying we need to pause for a minute.
Hurry up, old man. His old man bladder.
I would say that he's not the only person watching, but like there's only 2 people on YouTube watching the stream right this minute, so he is almost the only person watching.
Yeah. No, but no, and so that's the thing is financially, like I've been reading on the market and stuff, and the market is new and used vehicles. Used vehicles are supposed to drop by around 10%, if not a little bit more. Used or new vehicles are supposed to drop by maybe 5%. They're talking. So you're looking at maybe like $2,000 or $3,000 on a $40,000 vehicle. But what I ran into is what I was been watching and listening to is financial. They've been like they're predicting interest rates are still going to go up.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
they're going to go up at least another 0.5% here soon, and if not, they're going to go even higher. So yeah, you save. Okay, cool. I instead of paying, like I mean, what 39,000 I think is what I ended up walking out, or no 32 after my down payment stuff. Okay, cool. So I walked out with 29,000. All right, well, but now I have a 9 or 10, 11% interest rate. Like, that it doesn't make any sense, and so that's kinda why that's why I kinda jumped on when I did was just because like, and yeah, even though now my interest rate is still not where I want it to be, but hopefully once they start going down, I've been talking to my bank that I have my mortgage and stuff through. I've been talking to them already, like, "Hey, how much does it cost to refinance?" And the guy was like, "It's $15. That's all it costs here to do a truck." And so as soon as the interest rates start coming down, I'm gonna jump on the refinance. I'll
Hmm.
definitely do that. But it's just that just sucks because and so yeah. So I mean, yeah, and I feel bad for people who are jumping into the mortgages right now, and even vehicles here in the next few months. That when interest rates are 9, 10%, and mortgages are right now they're back up to 7%. What I just saw, and they're slated to go even higher. So it's
And
just oh
and the rates you're talking about are prime rates.
yeah,
We're not even talking about subprime rates.
yeah,
Like what's happening in the prime rate market is going to like add some bucks to what it's going to cost you to get credit. That's the end result. It's not going to be an insurmountable amount, but you're going to pay more in interest over the life of the loan. But the part of this that is going to be crippling is if you are a younger person or somebody with imperfect credit who is trying to rebuild it, you may not be able to get a daggum loan unless you have any. I mean, like there might come because if that interest rate is increasing for prime rates, then it's increasing exponentially more for subprime, and the minimum requirements are going up as well. So whereas there might have been a time where with a 550 credit score, limited credit history, you could get into a loan, you could eat it, give it a couple years, pay it off, improve your credit. It might come to the point where if you have anything less than say a 700, you can't get financed for a car loan, and that's I mean, that's the banks. They have to do what they feel like they can
right.
stomach as far as a risk profile, but that's the painful part
Hmm.
in the automotive market. So, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things of like do I wait until the principal amount drops but I pay more in interest, or do I get it right now before interest rates go up more and pay a couple of bucks more on the principal? It's like for you being a prime credit score, it's going to kind of come out in the wash either way. But for the subprime market, I don't think they're going to be looking at 5.5, 6% interest. I think they're probably going to be looking at more like 9, 10.
Hmm.
And with the current cost of new vehicles and even like used vehicles of some stripes, a 10% interest rate is going to be catastrophic.
Yeah,
Not quite apocalyptic, but it's going to be bad.
oh yeah, but that's the thing though, and I guess that's where I'm a firm believer on down payments. I mean, if you can save up enough money, I mean, on a mortgage, it's definitely hard because 20% on a $150,000 $200 house, like that's hard. But on a truck, I mean, my down payment, I saved up 10 grand on a down payment of a truck that was 41,000, and then on top of that, they took 2 grand off on top of it, just because Toyotas right now are so popular. They're discounting all their Toyota Tacomas, at starting at 2 grand, and they're discounting them so that they can try to sell them, so that they can get them off the lot because they have more vehicles that are coming in. The guy that I was talking to today, he told me that they at one point last year, they actually were because it was Spartan Toyota in Lansing is where I got this truck at, and they were awesome. They were great. And so he was saying at one point last year they actually were called Spartan Toyota or Spartan Tacoma because they had so many Tacomas on the lot because they were selling out so quick that they were just like get us as many Tacomas as you can, and so they just were shipping them left and right, and so now he said our Tacomas are starting to kind of let up a little bit. Now we're seeing more like the Tundras and we're seeing the Forerunners and stuff like that. But but yeah, and so when I was there, I mean, I looked at a bunch of different Tacomas that they had sitting there, which is nuts to me because the place in Grand Rapids I originally went to, they had none. They had one Toyota Tacoma Sport that I test drove, and that was actually the guy that I was dealing with. It was his truck that they like were like, here, you can take it and test it out and drive it and all that stuff. And so, and that was his test that he was driving. Other than that, they had nothing, and they weren't getting nothing until the end of the month. So there's some places that are overstocked with them, and there's some of them that apparently they can't get them. But no, and that's the thing is, like I said, going back to the down payment thing, I'm a firm believer that if you can sit there and you can save up and you have a vehicle that you don't need a new vehicle, save up a down payment. I think that helped me with definitely helped me with my APR, and just the overall I didn't have to get gap insurance. I didn't have to get all this added some added stuff that they want to throw at you in case you wreck it. Because the fact that by the time you look at the resale value of this truck, with me putting down such a large down payment, I'm not underwater, with it right out the gate. It depreciates as soon as you start driving off the lot, but it's going to take a little bit longer now that since I put such a large down payment on there. So I'm by means like not a good financial person. Like, don't listen to me financially. Like, I would actually listen to Phil before me. But I've talked to a lot of people and I've listened to people, and it just getting that down payment I think really helps. So off the soapbox.
You have a better head on your shoulders financially than probably like 90% of the American people, to be honest. Like, you at least have an understanding of the principles, and you have an understanding of risk to reward and debt to income, and you understand the principles.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I remember, like, you and I were texting, what was it, yesterday? And you were like, yeah, I woke up at 4:30 and got freaked out and had to just look over the financials one more time. And I was like, well,
I don't necessarily have anxiety, but like I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning. I slept. I think I worked, went to bed. I slept for like maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I woke up wide awake thinking of like, okay, can I afford this? Can I do this? And like I ran through all the numbers, like all my bills, my mortgage, stuff like that. I added everything up, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm still this much in the green. At the end of the month, I still have this much in that I can put into savings. And yeah, so, and that was actually not at my weekly income. That I actually rounded down, so to give me some buffer. So I actually went down a little bit, and then I was like, okay, now if I add overtime in, this is what I can do, and all that. Like, I went through probably over 2 hours. I was laying in bed, like on my phone, like calculating everything out, and finally I was like, okay, I'm getting really tired. I need to go back to bed. But yeah, it was crazy. I hate. I mean, when I bought my house, I did the exact same thing. I went through and I was like, okay, can I do this? And yeah, I'm like, well, I can't go out and buy a gun just randomly like I used to be able to. But I mean, I have a truck, so.
yeah. But before we get to the last little section of this topic, I have one thing. But what you're talking about, though, a new vehicle purchase, like in the pantheon of important crap, to me, that's like number 3, right behind buying a house and who you marry.
Yeah.
Not saying you are, I am. And marrying somebody is kind of a really, really, really serious thing that'll keep you awake for several nights.
Yeah. Haven't been there yet, so.
Unless you go to Vegas and you just wake up married, then, all the worry is over. That's when the panic sets in.
Right.
But one more thing, weather. I know we've talked about it. Like, I know you keep heavy jacket, blankets, stuff like that in the friggin' truck, because if you don't, I mean, like, we just had this happen. Where was it? Was it up in New York? I know they ran into this in friggin' Maryland. Like, in the last 12 months we've had news stories about people that like got caught in snowstorms, caught in blizzards, had hypothermia, sitting in their car shivering, had no way to keep warm, or didn't have warm clothes and froze to death trying to walk home. I mean, the stuff happens.
Yeah.
So let me tug it out of you. Like, what do you keep in
Oh,
your truck in case it gets cold?
I thought you were gonna keep going. No, I mean, I just like with my Jeep. I mean, I have a parka, a heavy down winter parka. That thing I've never gotten cold in that thing. Carhartt pants, thick boots, insulated boots. I mean, it definitely sucked to walk miles upon miles in those, but you won't get cold. I can tell you that right now. You'll sweat before you get cold, and that's a whole another story. But it definitely keep you warm, and yeah, and then emergency blanket, Mylar blankets. I got a wool blanket that I'll transfer over to the truck. Wool blanket, my jacket, stuff like that. And even in the summer, I mean, a wool blanket, I'll keep that in the truck all year round, because I mean, it doesn't have to be snowing and negative 10 degrees out to get hypothermia and die. It can happen if it's 55 degrees and raining. I mean, you can get hypothermia. So it's just a matter of, it's just a matter of body heat, heat leaving the body. So yeah, so I mean, I plan on keeping that in there. But yeah, and then I do need to buy more. I used to have them, and I think I used them to start fires with. But I used to have a whole stack of the candles, like the little bitty candles and stuff. Those are great for starting campfires. But yeah, I used to have a whole stack of those. And even those, you light a couple of those and put them on your dash, and make sure that the wax isn't going everywhere. But you put those on your dash, and those will put off quite a bit of heat. Not enough to roast a steak or to fry a steak or whatever, but it'll be enough to keep you warm. So
to answer this question that just came in on Facebook, the Tacoma does have the TRD Off-Roads and the TRD Sports have a 110 AC outlet in the bed. Andrew and I were talking about it. I think it's limited to 100 watts while you're driving at 400 watts while parked with the vehicle on. I mean, there's ways you can use that, but it's definitely not going to double as it's not going to replace like even a little Honda generator in terms of power output.
Mm-hmm.
He must be talking about the new F-150 Lightnings, which I've heard so much mixed stuff back and forth on those things. I will be going nowhere near an electric vehicle for quite a while.
I can't remember what year his F-150 is, but Josh, I really like his truck. Yeah, it's his truck. I really wanted a truck after I saw his.
I will say
because he's one of the reasons why I wanted another truck. So.
There is actually, since it bears on the conversation, there's a YouTube channel I follow. It's a guy that's a mechanic out of Central Florida, and during a hurricane that he got hit by, he actually documented all this on his YouTube channel. But he was running. He has a 1-ton diesel truck, and he had just a little, just a regular old power inverter that he had alligator clipped onto the battery, and had left the truck running. And he was using that to keep his chest freezer from thawing out, so he wouldn't lose all of his meat and everything at his homestead. So I mean, necessity is definitely the mother of invention. It's not the Lightning. Okay. So last thing, and this shouldn't be that extensive. Like, I've talked about stuff I keep in my vehicle, which is mostly like, I'm broke down. How do I get back on the road? I carry a tire inflator. I carry rescue tape, which we've talked about before. If you have a leaky radiator hose, that will wrap you up well enough to get back on the road, get where you're going. That's also why I carry so much water in the truck, so I can refill the radiator if I have to. I keep a spare serpentine belt. I had to change mine. I took the old one, threw it in the toolbox, because it would not be the first time I've seen somebody's car crap a friggin' serpentine belt. And if you have if you have the tool and you have the belt, it ain't that hard to change on the side of the road. In a second gen Tacoma, I will say that if you have to change the serpentine belt on the side of the road, you're going to curse whatever man designed that friggin' system, because you can only reach half the pulleys from under the truck and half of them from above the truck. It is a big pain in the ass. It might be easier or more difficult on a third gen. Your mileage may vary. I could do it if I had to, but I wouldn't enjoy any part of it. And I keep like a quart of oil in the truck and a little thing of brake fluid. And really, that's not like so I can do an oil change on the side of the road, but it's more of a, if I were driving and suddenly the oil pressure light came on and I pulled the dipstick and realized I'm really low on oil, a quart of oil will get you off the side of the interstate to the next exit so you can get to a service station and buy more and figure out what the problem is. And that's what most of this is. I don't want to be stuck on the side of the road between two interstate exits. I want to get to the next exit, figure out what the problem is, and get home.
Yeah.
And I carry a basic tool set in the truck. Just, ratchets and sockets and stuff like that to, again, get me off the side of the road if I have a problem. And spare fuses. Mm-hmm. So, how much of all that... I know you probably carried a lot of this stuff in your Jeep.
Yeah. Tire repair kit. I carried a breaker bar, especially for change tires, stuff like that. The rescue tape duct tape basically. But yeah, no, and that's what's really cool about. So I've been looking up the small little air compressors that you can actually buy. And I see people install them under the hood. I also see this one girl that I follow on YouTube that she owns a Tacoma 3rd gen. She actually installed it in like she actually modified her bed, which I probably won't go that far right now, but she actually cut a hole in the side of her bed and installed like a whole bracket system, so where she can actually hit a switch and it'll start the air compressor, and she just pulls the hose and she can reach all 4 of her tires if she needs. I really like that idea. I wouldn't mind looking at something. I probably wouldn't mind doing something like maybe under the hood or something. But I've been looking at those systems for tire inflation. Yeah, I carried a spare serpentine belt because my water pump, when I just replaced the water pump on my Jeep, I bought a serpentine belt. I was like, well, I'm taking it off anyway. Bought a brand new one, threw the old one in the back, and I'll probably end up just for. I know I don't need one right now, but just for giggles, I'll probably end up picking a new. I'll just order one and have it back there and have it in the truck. Again, just because I don't need it right now doesn't mean I'm not going to need it down the road, and I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So, stuff like that. So,
as far as tire inflators, and it sounds to me like you've already skipped this stage, but for the listeners, if you're looking at tire inflators, please, 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 for the love of God, if it has a cigarette lighter plug on the end of it, skip it. It might air up a tire in a pinch. It'd probably work really good on a golf cart or a bicycle, but please, for the love of God, get something a little bit beefier. Like, I got a Viair 80AP. It alligator clips directly onto the battery, and it has absolutely no worries whatsoever airing up a 32-inch tire.
Yeah.
Not a problem. If you're going to be pushing, like, I forget what model, I think it's a Viair, like a 400 something, is what I reckon, what my father wound up getting, because he's got a 3/4 ton truck and a trailer, and he had to be able to air up a tire to 80 psi. Just because if you use my 80AP on his tires, it'll just hit the ceiling and it won't air him up beyond like 50 or 55 psi, which does him very little good if he happens to have a leaking tire while he has his trailer on the back of him. 50 psi is not going to be enough with that amount of weight on the tongue.
Yeah.
But I would venture to say like an 88P is a good entry level tire inflator. It will work just fine for most light duty pickup trucks, up to a half ton. If you want to go with something like what you're talking about, like a twin ARB or a single ARB, like I've seen those mounted under the hood, I've seen them mounted underneath the passenger seat, I've seen them mounted in the bedside cubbies. I've seen people like put them into like ammo cans with a little bat with a, that way it's all self-contained and you've got your your hose wrapped up in there. You just clip it onto the batteries. There's 1,000 different things you can do. But at the end of the day, like the ability to air up a tire and go and not have to monkey around with getting your spare tire down and fooling it with all that. Two things though. And you don't have to do them right this minute, but please, for the love of God, do it as soon as possible. Get your tools out of your truck. Make sure they're all there. And lower and raise your spare tire. And preferably, if you have some dry film lubricant, spray that mechanism, like where the chain goes up in there, spray up into there with dry film lube. Mine, when I got mine, the spare had obviously never been let down, and I thought I was going to have a problem at first because I couldn't get the spare, like the mechanism was so dry and so bound up, I couldn't get it to release at first. So, like, lower the tire, bring it back up, make sure it will come down. And if you have it already, make really, really sure that you have the key for your locking lug nuts. Because on a TRD off-road, I can almost promise you have a locking lug nut at every one of those wheels. And if you don't have the key for them, you better go right back to the dealership and tell them to find it. It might be in your glove box. It might be with the jack and everything underneath that back seat. But
I haven't had any time to explore the truck more, except for I pulled the stickers off and paired my phone.
I know.
About what I've done so far.
Oh, and I know you just got it. I guess what I'm saying is like make those very high on your priority list. And letting the spare tire down and bringing it back up is just from my own personal experience, because like it would really, really suck to have a flat tire on the side of the road, and what screws you is you can't get your lug nuts off or you can't get your spare tire to come down.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, like I'm super excited for you.
Thanks. Yeah, there's more to come. We'll definitely be doing more truck episodes, more vehicle episodes and stuff. So
definitely, and be fun to see what direction you take this truck in, man. But I'm happy for you because you've been after this for a long, long time, and you've done a lot of adulting, and now you.
Yeah.
Now you get to go out and get what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of adulting, I have to go eat with the fam. You've got work.
Yeah, I gotta head to work for a little bit. So.
All right. Well.
All right.
Matter of Fact's podcast is heading out the door. If these last two episodes of Truck Stuff has been the most boring stuff you've ever heard in your life, please come onto our social media and like complain to the complaint department, which is me, and we won't do it again. Although I think we probably will. So y'all might just have to make peace with it.
Well, that, and then I'm curious to hear what other people have done. So shoot me a message if you want. Do whatever. Instagram, Facebook. Go on the website, fill out the contact form. Do what figure out. It'd be nice to talk to people and figure out what everybody else has done. So
definitely, sharing is caring.
Yep.
Take it easy, guys. Bye.
See ya. Bye.